Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Your favorite live streamer here, MJ. Don't I wish. Tuesday night. I'm usually not on Tuesday night. Been cooped up in the house all day. Been working on a mix. Actually, a pretty nice song. And I got about 90% knocked out. I got a work mix, a copy of it, and I've been listening to it. I'm going to make a couple of tweaks, but I think it's almost done. Mastering sounds really good on it, too. Excuse me, that's what happens when you're drinking beer. And I'm drinking this stuff called Hotweiler. Hard to see, but it says pills. It's a pills. Now, nobody really knows I'm on, because I never come on Tuesday. So I get my hair cut. I'm right on the edge. See, when my hair gets longer, it starts getting wavy. And back when I used to have really long hair, it would actually turn into, I guess they call those banana curls. I don't know why, but. And all the ladies in my community used to come up to me and, young man, come over here. They want to touch my curls, and they ask me, how do you set your hair? I go, 8 hours of sleep. So that's all I did. I washed it and went. It was amazing. But I've been growing my hair just a little bit longer just to try to get some kind of style into it, so who knows. All right, we are broadcasting live on Twitch, YouTube, and Band. If you'd like to join us on Band, I actually have two bands, and I don't mean like rock bands. The two bands that I have are Phoenix Media Forge, which is my studio, and Taiwan Live TV, which is, of course, the YouTube channel that you're watching. Hey, J-Boy, yeah, on schedule, man. Yeah, it works out better sometimes, like to throw people off. So, feel free to join either one of those groups. Band is kind of a strange name. Talked about this before. It's just an app for managing groups, and companies use it too to manage teams, because it's great for sharing information and stuff. And you can live stream to it, or you could do voice calls and video calls, to the band. But I live stream with Prism, and Prism connects to Band. I just can't see the comments, but. So, J-Boy, how you doing, man? Good to see you. We don't have the new chat widget yet. The new chat widget is going to fade out, but I can show you I can give you an idea. If I do this and I turn off chat, now nobody sees it. If I go like this, there is a chat widget right here that I pre-configured. And the next comment that comes in will show up on the chat widget. And it'll be at the bottom. So I've kind of configured that in preparation for the day when we have the chat fade out. And Jake, the leader of the Prism live streaming, live studio mobile app, said that their team is going to push out the fix for the chat widget, which is really good. So instead of being locked into one place on the screen, and instead of being permanently burned so that nothing goes away, that it's just on all the time, the next one that comes in is going to be on the widget. So for right now, let me just do this. Let me just turn this. I'll turn this back on. See, this is normally what it looks like, and it's off, to the side. And I can scroll it up and down. Of course, there's only two here. If I turn this off, then the chat widget is still on the stream at the bottom. The whole idea was just a second ago, before the live stream started, a car went by and he gunned it. He was down the end of the block and he gunned it, and it hurt my ears so bad. It must have been like about 1.2 kilohertz, and it just was like, it must have been about 120 or 30 dB. It cut through me like crazy. Anyway, I've been in the studio all day. I'm doing a studio rebuild with my friend Li Shang. We're going to demolish the back wall. There you go. Nope. Not really. I mean, I guess if some cop decides he doesn't like it, then, you know. So J-Boy, that right there is the chat widget. Now imagine if that would disappear, how much nicer that would look. I think that's a nice looking widget, and have a background on it too. So, you know, whether it's dark or it's light, you can see it. Truth is, there aren't enough police, and they're not aggressive enough. The biggest offenders are motor scooters, and they operate at all days, hours of the day and night. It's just crazy. Anyway, so I think the next update for Android will probably have the chat fade out. That I don't know if you can set it or not. I recommended that you be able, you know, the live streamer could set the number of seconds. But anyway. And these guys, these Food Panda guys, there's no need for those things to be that loud. I mean, I got to sit here and wear earplugs just to be comfortable. It's crazy. Anyway. It was a beautiful day today, but I want to talk about the studio. So my friend Li Shang, he's going to build me some custom furniture for my console. We're going to mount my digital console flush into the furniture with 19-inch racks, and my see that guy? He just blew through that light. That's a blinking red light for him and a blinking yellow light for the other traffic, and he didn't even slow down to stop and make sure that a car wasn't coming. I see people do that all the time. They take a big chance because they think it's fate. It's not my fate to die, or it is my fate to die, and I can't do anything about it. It's just ludicrous. So my Soundcraft Ghost console is really big. It's like over twice as big as my X32 digital console, and I cannot fit them side by side in the room because I mix mostly on the X32, and it would put it offset to where it wouldn't be in the middle of the room. Fist bump to you, Rob. How you doing? Good to see you. I'm using the chat widget here. I can turn it on and off, and the regular chat burn on and off. I just thought that I would do it this way tonight. Yes, you're right. They run the red lights here and they jump to green. See, this is a big problem, and I'm glad you recognize this, because what happens is we have a culture here where people run the red light, and they run the red light significantly after it turns red. But we also have a culture that jumps the green light, and that's a recipe for disaster. So the problem is it's a little bit long. See, it's like kind of, you know. Now here's the thing. I mean, here's the thing. The other one, right, is basically up against the edge. So I think it does look pretty good. I can resize it. I can go like, whoops, hang on, let me do this. I grab this and hang on. Sorry. Hang on. Come on. I can resize it like this. Put it back down to there. Yeah, see, but I don't think that's gonna... It doesn't seem to wrap. accident, does it? Yeah, see, the problem is it doesn't always word wrap right, so. See, there's a T. Oh man, that just makes me look, oh, that just drives me nuts. If I go like this, then it just, oh boy. That's letter by letter. I got to talk to Jake about that. That's, oh, see? That's, do you guys see this? I don't know if you see this while I'm doing it in real time, but anyway. I'll leave it like that. But the widget does look pretty good. What's gonna make it really outstanding is after a while, I mean, you know, on the next update, it's going to fade. So all of these will fade. See, I can't scroll these, but I could scroll the other comments. See, the great part about it is Prism has its own separate chat display system. That's the one I've been using to burn. If I turn burn off, I can still look at that on my screen. You just won't see it. So if somebody comes in and they're causing trouble, you know, you can't do anything with the chat widget. The chat widget, you know, the usernames are not clickable or anything like that. But on the native chat system, they are. So you guys could be looking at the chat widget, which should display and then will fade out in the next iteration. But anytime I need, I can turn the native system on and scroll up and down and do whatever I need to do. So it's gonna be cool. All right, so the Queen of the Night, my favorite astronomical body, the moon. It's right overhead, and there's a couple of. This is a metal roof, and has a couple of sheets of corrugated that are clear, and I can see her right there, the Queen of the Night. She's going to be full on Thursday night. The official full moon is Friday, but Thursday, I can't wait. And boy, the weather's great. You know, I miss it when I don't see the moon. But anyway, about the studio, the two consoles side by side are too much, so I'm going to have the Soundcraft Ghost analog console. It's kind of a sidecar on a 90-degree angle. Eventually, I will get a big enough room that I can put everything side by side. I would like to have anything I want. I would like to have a dual control room system with one console in each control room, because they do different things. I would use the Ghost for tracking, and I would use the Ghost for some like rock and roll mixing that didn't require automation, and then use the X32 for everything else. We are at Jar Jar. I'm at the Jar Jar store, and I got my battery bank on here charging the phone, but I could put my little light on, but I don't think we need it. I think it kind of like the dark look. Yeah, so I got 3 cans of beer, and I'm on can number 1. My title says no food. I'm doing it again, folks. Today's day 2. Haven't had a single solitary speck of solid food. I'm going to go as long as I can go. Now my goal is 3 weeks. And so far, you know, yesterday and today, standing on my head. It's no problem. And after 3 days, appetite suppression kicks in. It just gets easier. So we'll see. But sometimes, if I've been fasting 9 or 10 days, sometimes it gets to where I feel like I just gotta have something, you know. And I'll go get like some peanuts or something like that, or something, you know, nutritionally dense, but not so glycemic. So beer's not so good for you, but wasn't in the mood for rum. Oh, I'm tired. So anyway, what I'm going to do when I do the studio build, I will be posting about it in the late night group. I'll be posting on Instagram too. but it should take about a week. We're going to blow the back wall out, we're going to move it in, and then we're going to slant the ceiling. And my friend Li Shang he's an ex-producer himself, and he knows a lot about control room design and studio design. So, and we're going to build the absorption panels and the diffuser panels ourselves, and we're going to stain them whatever colors. We're going to try to make it really beautiful at the same time, because I would like to be able to do more videos from the studio. Wen-Wen's fine. She seems to be doing okay. She actually has like 5 karaoke rooms as opposed to 2 in the other place. And so she's doing most of her, very little of her income now is from that restaurant. But Wen-Wen is smart. She's got a couple of businesses, and she has a business called it's a dumplings place, and we call it Ba Fang in Chinese, right? And she owns a Ba Fang right up on the big main road up there by the military base. And excuse me, those places do great. There was one down there a long time ago, and I knew the boss and his wife, and they had 2 kids, and they're doing quite well, owning the restaurant. So something to be said about owning a restaurant. And before the Great Reset is over and everybody's on, doing like gigs and stuff, I may even have a restaurant myself, and because I like cooking anyway. But I'm trying to get my studio going, because I think the studio is a pretty reliable source of income for different kinds of jobs. But Wen-Wen herself is doing fine. Actually, I saw her the other day, right? She walked out of the restaurant and was talking to the chef, and I said to myself, who's that lady? It must be a new lady. And I turned around, and she turned around, it was Wen-Wen. Her hair is super long now. I didn't recognize her. Hair's like down her back. So I was like, wow, okay. I've never seen her like that. So next time I see her, I'll grab a picture for you, and I'll post it in the late night groups. I know you guys are big fans of Wen-Wen, and she's a good sport. But the new place really is not conducive to live streaming. Hey, Ken Rod, fist bump to you. How you doing, bro? Good to see you, man. The new place is really not, conducive to live streaming. I'm guessing Dean is watching on Twitch, because I got 1 viewer on Twitch right now. And let me do this, just to kind of move my face a little bit away from the chat. Not that it matters, but hey. Ooh, I spilled that one. So this is barley extra strong, and this is 9.0%. So boy, oh boy. Yeah, it is an end of an era. We all knew it was coming too. But the funny thing is that window was so iconic, right? And I've got those videos. I specifically put my mobile phone outside. I put it on a tripod, and I shot that 4K video, because when you see me doing live streams from my studio using broadcasting software, not using my mobile phone, right? I have that in the background, and so I got all those pictures in those backgrounds. I got like so many pictures of all those live streamers. If you go back even to the Periscope days, you won't believe the people that have been. I should make a list of the famous live streamers that you guys all know that have been here, because Casper's been here half a dozen times. Jev's been here a couple times. John Ho's been here twice. Yuka's been here 4 times. John Sabo's been here at least twice. David Osaka was here, of course, once. We're gonna get it back as soon as this pandemic slows down here. But JL was here. John from LA was here. gosh, it was a real iconic thing, and Win liked that. She appreciated that. And she used to brag on it. She would show people. I would see her showing people, those postcards. It was nice. So, the new place, though, is just not conducive. And you see me do a walkthrough. It's kind of, well, I got to tell you. Hang on a second. All right. Efficiency is not huge in Asia, except in Japan. Physical layouts of things. I mean, I've been to Thailand, a guy that opened a restaurant and stuff, the layout was all wrong, and I explained to him how he could have different zones and had an area that was be suitable to have like dance music and stuff, and he didn't listen to me, and 2 months later he was out of business now. I don't know if that's a coincidence, but they're just, these businesses, they're run by just ordinary people, and they don't understand how to lay things out. But they don't ask anybody. They don't know how to lay things out for an efficient workflow. And it's, they put the kitchen outside, but they have a kitchen in the back. They just don't want to use it. But instead they get the kitchen out front, and they're wasting a lot of seating area, because right now, for her, the restaurant isn't a priority, because she serves restaurant food in the karaoke rooms for the karaoke customers. That's why. And I miss that. I go all the way to the other side of the highway to eat at that Thai place, to get that food that you see me talk about and show, like the other day I showed some. I go all the way over there to get that kind of food. Now, it used to be over here, Xiao Hui's, but Xiao Hui's is gone. Gone a long time, over 10 years. Wenwen's actually took over Xiao Hui's place, and Xiao Hui taught Wenwen's original chefs how to cook the food. And then she moved over there, and then that's where they had the window. But the thing that I was going to say was, I wasn't quite prepared for Wenwen's reaction, because the thing that was iconic was the window. I took pictures of the window and everything, and actually Wenwen told me if I wanted to, I could put lettering on the window that said, late night with MJ Klein, because I stream there so much. And I did put a Taiwan Live TV sticker, a clear sticker on it, but it didn't look very good. So, yep, it can be cutthroat. Yep. All right, listen, I can't stand it. Hold on. I can't stand this. I got to do this. I'm going to put this back in. Come on, hang on a second. Okay, I don't really see any need to have any more than like 3 lines, and I'm just gonna leave it down there. You guys can see that okay, right? That looks okay, and the alignment of like the YouTube, the icon and stuff is right up against the edge, right? That's okay. I just can't stand it when it's truncated. It is a cutthroat business, absolutely. See, I mean, I don't have 1,000 people sending me messages going like this. Yeah, I got 2 or 3 people, at one time. So, all right, good. But the window, right? And she made a double pane window. She did it right, with a dead airspace in between to try to keep the sound from going out in the street. And that worked pretty well, right? So she had this double pane window, and she put some plastic flowers in the middle of it and stuff, and some pebbles, and trying to make it look really nice. And then she put the signs up, and you guys remember my Chinese lessons I used to do. I said this means that and that means that. That was a lot of fun for me, right? And when I first started live streaming there, a lot of the people thought it was weird, but then they started to embrace it, and they were, you see them, they're looking at what I'm doing, right? And a couple of people, you remember, used to come out and say hi and talk to me. And one of my favorite things was always when Winwin would come out and do a little interview, because sometimes people want to know how much money did she, spend, like, to open the restaurant, and like how much money does she make on an average, stuff like that. Kind of invasive questions, but friendly questions. They just want to, just get an idea, right? So I went over there after, she moved, and they're building the scooter shop over there, which, by the way, we don't really need another scooter shop. There's one like right there, but this, come on. So I said to her, where's the glass? From the window. And she got this really, really like sad look on her face. And she said, threw it away. So there's no saving it. Now, I don't think, yes. And I enjoyed that. I like that, actually. I think that's really cool. I like that part of the gig. But here's the thing. That doesn't really, I don't think it's going to happen much anymore, because you saw, I was there, it's got the junky background. They got a bunch of junk back there, and it's just not that good. But I don't think Winwin understands the volume of videos, live streams and photographs that I have of her place. And so one of these days, because everything I got's on Google Photos, so one of these days, I'm just going to put together a collection of them in an album and share it with her. And I think she'll freak out, because I did all her food photography. I think I told you guys a story about that. I did the food photography, and it turned out it wasn't exactly what she wanted, but it wasn't clear. She didn't tell me what she wanted. I see what's going on with this. I gotta adjust this just a little bit. It wasn't clear exactly what she wanted. She wanted me to do some photos, right? And come on, what's going on with this? Oh, that's as small as it gets. Okay. She wanted me to do photos for her and for a menu. But what she didn't tell me was that, come on, will you go? Hey Dean, how's it going? This thing is acting crazy. But what she didn't tell me was she was going to make a sign out of the photos. She said she wanted to make photos for a menu. So what I did was, I brought my umbrella in, my reflector, and my digital flash, and had it synced to my Nikon camera, and I did some really nice, top class. I should show you those pictures. I did this like 7 or 8 years ago. Some top class photos, and I actually periscoped the photo shoot. It was fun. And what I did was, we put it on the table, and they're round dishes, and of course on an angle they're kind of an oblong, and I used filters and oblong shapes, and I made the plates that the food was on, snow white, and I white balanced everything, and I enhanced the colors, and the saturation, and really made them pop, right? And then I made the background completely dark, black, because I thought that the menu publisher would be able to use that to extract the dish out, with a black background. You understand what I'm saying? They could make the black background transparent if they wanted to. I didn't make her, transparent PNGs. I made her JPEGs. And so she makes this sign, and I understand, hey, Ken, thanks so much, and fist bump to you, bro. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do, man. Got to go to work. Yeah, take care of your family. Ken, real quick, how's your wife doing? Is she doing any better, man? Everything okay? Sorry, I apologize. I haven't asked. I think about this when I'm not around, but when I'm not live streaming. But yeah, is she doing okay? Just give me let me know. So one day I come over here, and she's got pictures of all the stuff that I took on a big sign, but they're not my pictures. Because what happened was I set up with my umbrella and my flash and my camera and a tripod, and said everything is just fine, and she would just come over and go click with her iPhone. So she used her iPhone pictures. Hey Matthew, thanks for popping in, bro. I appreciate it. I'm on step 2, number 2. And this is actually barley. And I like barley because that's, how you make whiskey with malted barley. So the reason that she used her iPhone photos was because she said that the guy who made the sign told her that the pictures were too dark because they were all black with a white dish in the center. Now, Winwin has my phone number. She has my line. So I asked her, why didn't you ask me? There's a problem. So she didn't tell me. I could have spent an hour or two and just modified those pictures, and instead of changing, the the background to black, I could have made it clear. I could have made PNG files with just the plated food. But anyway, what I'm going to do? I'm going to show you guys those. I'm going to show you not all of them. I took like 50 or something of them, but they're all on Flickr. And so what I'll do is when I get around to it, I will post the album on the late night group so you guys can see it. But I'm going to take some of what I think are probably the better photographs, and I'll load them in Prison Live Studio. And okay, well, I'm glad to hear. Yeah, I know. We all got our rough days. I know. I got them too. I struggle with things, I struggle with human weaknesses and things. So, but thanks, Rob. I appreciate it, man. And it's always glad to have you. So we look forward to having you back in a bit here. So I'll show you what I think are the highlight photos. But now Winwin does have occasionally some really interesting foods on offer. Now I can't do it now because I'm on a big fast, but she actually had some mantis shrimp. I'm pretty sure I showed you guys that. I may have posted it in the late night group. But she got some mantis shrimp. Now in Taiwan, mantis shrimp are raised in bottles because they're very dangerous. When they're babies, they put them inside like little, just like a little water bottle, right? And then they soon grow too big, to get out of the bottle. And they live their whole life in the bottle. They just feed them in there and stuff. Of course, they leave the end cap off so the water can exchange. But so when you buy mantis shrimp, a lot of times in Taiwan, they're in water bottles, and you cut the end of the water bottle off and you dump it out. But they call them the thumb breakers or thumb splitters because there's two kinds of mantis shrimp, basically. There's the kind that have a weapon that's a club, and there's the kind that has a weapon that's like a scalpel. And like the pistol shrimp, the mantis shrimp kills its prey by super speed attacks. They can, they look like a praying mantis, and they can whip that claw at hypersonic speeds that it's so fast it causes cavitation in the water. Now you should just look up, if you don't know what that is, you need to look up Wikipedia what cavitation is. But cavitation also happens with submarine propellers and so forth. But from what I read, the mantis shrimp strikes so fast that the water cavitation effect causes an instantaneous burst of energy that results in a temperature hotter than the surface of the sun, but for a matter of nanoseconds. I mean, that's pretty incredible underwater. The mantis shrimp also has the most complex eye known in nature, which is it is interesting. A mantis shrimp can see colors that we can only imagine. Now, I love my eyesight as a human being. I'm very thankful to the Creator for my senses, I'm glad my sense of smell isn't, too acute because I can smell the sewer and stuff, but you know what I'm saying. But, I got a good pair of glasses with good correction, and I see very well. But the mantis shrimp has the most complex and eye structure and the most capable sight in the animal kingdom, so much so that civilian science and military science have studied their eyeballs in order to try to derive some technological advantage from it, just by studying the structure. How can you make cameras better and stuff? What a weird animal. And I see him, and it looks like a praying mantis in the front and a small crayfish or a flat lobster on the back. So I want to eat one or 5. Now, I was at I can't even think of what it is. I think Liujia night market in Kaohsiung, and they had mantis shrimp on the menu, but it was too expensive. I mean, I can afford anything that I want, but I'm modest about my spending. I don't want to just blow a bunch of money for nothing because things happen. All of a sudden, whoa, hey, the transmission blew in the car. Something like that, right? So, I just decided not to go for the mantis shrimp. So anyway, what's on your mind, guys? And I'm kind of digging this kind of digging this chat widget around here, and I'm kind of I'm gonna move it this way some. Hear all that stuff that's going on over there. That's what the chat widget looks like against a light background. See, I chose kind of a light gray color, for the text. The names are all in pure white, and then it has a field behind it to help people see it. Let me move it back more this way. Right, now I hear this stuff going on here, right? And I have no idea what's going to happen. Many times, what is this? Is this the, yeah, this is a clamp, I think. Oh, wait a minute. No, that right there is my bicycle saddlebag. Not that I know of. This whole prepper thing is kind of unknown here, I mean, we're encouraged by organizations like the American Institute in Taiwan and others to prepare a go bag, for example, in case you have a disaster. Problem is, you got to keep it updated. I got a shortwave radio, and I don't want to keep it in my go bag, but I would like to have that with me. But I don't want to buy a separate one just for my go bag. But first world problems. But Taiwanese don't seem to worry about that stuff, And that article I posted today in the late night group, about the reset and all that, I'm going to tell you, that the Great Reset is not going to affect us here in Taiwan like it will the rest of the world. See, there is some advantage to being not an actual sovereign nation, not being part of the UN and that whole thing, right? I have a recommendation, Rob. It's a made in Taiwan radio by a company called Sanjian. It's absolutely fantastic. That's the one that you have seen me use in some of the videos. They have several models, but I'd be more than happy to send you a link. It's a fascinating hobby, and I know you would enjoy it. And you just plug your favorite headset in, and there is an external antenna jack, and the radio comes with a wire antenna. I'll do it. It comes with a wire antenna that's actually remarkably good. I've been like in a campground far away in the mountains and strung this thing. It's like 10 meters. And then plugged it in. I sat in my lounge chair and I put my earplugs in and was scanning the band, and it was remarkable what I could hear. There used to be a guide called the WRTH. It was the World Radio Television Handbook. I don't know if that exists anymore, but boy, I used to get that every year. It was like a small encyclopedia or a small dictionary. And it had every known radio and television broadcast around the world by country. But there's an app for shortwave listening. I think you're an Android guy, if I'm not mistaken, Rob. I'll send you a link to the Google Play Store for that shortwave listening app, which is nice because you can constantly update the database and get the latest information. But it's really interesting because sometimes you'll be scanning. Okay, good. You'll set the shortwave radio for scanning, and it'll stop on a station, and you'll have no idea what it is. But you see the frequency, so you look on the app, and it can help you identify what it is. When I was in the States, I heard some amazing broadcasts from like Radio Nepal. That was really something. And one of my favorite ones back, excuse me, in the old days was Vilnius, Lithuania. But the one that was the most interesting for me living in the Western Hemisphere was Tirana, Albania. Because there were two notable things about the shortwave broadcast from Albania. Number one, they were always several seconds late coming on the air because they didn't have accurate clocks. We're going back 35 years or so. And the second thing, there was always something like a 60 cycle or a 120 cycle hum on their audio because they were dealing with junky equipment. Over here, excuse me, in Taiwan, I can pick up Radio Korea, which is North Korea, because North Korea claims, to own the whole peninsula, so they call themselves, the voice of Korea. I can pick those guys up like the telephone. Seriously, it's like listening to a YouTube video. They're so close, it's not funny. And Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, all these Asian programs over here are very, very easy to get. Now you guys may recall, I have since taken those videos off my phone. I can put it back on, but you may recall that when I was in Thailand, it was the last week in January and the first week in February of 2020 when the pandemic was just becoming public knowledge, and I recorded with my phone several very interesting shortwave programs about the pandemic. Someone asked the question, what's the difference between an epidemic and a pandemic, which I thought was cool. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? But it's still going on, and it's still a viable way. And countries are realizing that with things like cybernetic attacks, cyber attacks and denial of service attacks, shortwave radio is still reliable. And with a relatively cheap radio and a modest wire antenna, if you had a bow and arrow, you could basically just shoot an antenna up into a tree and have a sloper and do quite well. What matters is, are you away from, civilization? So Rob, if you like to go camping, take the RV and you go out in the woods, that's when you can really hear what's going on with shortwave radio. Really something. And I'm a ham radio operator, but years before I was into ham radio, I was a shortwave listener, and I had several really high-end radios. I had a nice Collins. I had two Collins radios actually, but nice filter section in them, and it was nice. And then when I got my ham license, I got a ham radio transceiver that had a general coverage receiver, so it would receive from basically right above the AM broadcast band up to 30 megahertz, general coverage. It was great. And I had a big antenna on my roof. I had a beam with 6 elements, but 3 elements were dedicated to 10 meters. 2 elements were a duo band 15 and 20 meter antenna, but I also had a delta loop that I had strung down to the backyard, and so I could hear anything. So let me tell you what I heard. You guys remember the Gulf War? Well, there was Desert Shield, and then it became Desert Storm. And I know at that time, the military frequencies, this is a lot has changed with encryption. But I heard U.S. Air Force, excuse me, I heard U.S. Air Force pilots in the open talking on HF. I think it was in the 5 megahertz range about, bombing targets in Iraq and stuff. It was really, really interesting. There's so much stuff you can hear about. And Rob, I think you might find this interesting too. There's a lot of those spy channels and the numbers channels. And that app that I was talking to you about lists all of those. If you want to do something, remember this. If you don't remember anything else from tonight's broadcast, remember this. Search on YouTube shortwave numbers stations. Shortwave numbers stations. And be prepared, to pour yourself a drink and sit back, because you might want to listen for a couple hours. Fascinating stuff. There are stations that just recite numbers. What they are is, it's exactly like James Bond or like Wise Guy, These numbers correspond to code books. And you look at the code book, and the number means this, and the number means that, and stuff. And that shortwave radio is still one of the most reliable ways of getting information to government operatives in the field. Still. Because it's so easy. And I've seen shortwave receivers like about this big. Just pull up a big antenna. And all you got to do is copy your numbers down, and you know what your orders are. As high-tech as things are. Because the problem is, the more high-tech they are, the more susceptible they are to being knocked out. These days, with an EMP burst, from a nuclear weapon, a valve receiver, it's a tube receiver, would be more likely to survive an EMP pulse than a fully solid state unit, especially with proprietary chips and so forth. Things are going to fry. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff. That is a very interesting world, and I probably should do more content about that, but the problem with my channel is my channel doesn't have many views, and I don't have any new subscribers really, because nobody can figure out my channel's about. It's Taiwan Live TV, and I do show some stuff about Taiwan. I'm in Taiwan, but we talk about stuff like this. We talk about, sometimes UFOs and things like that, and anti-gravity, and now we're talking about shortwave radio. So people are going, I don't know, man. The channel's like all over the planet. So I don't know what to do. But I do know this. I've already killed the Bootsy Barbecue TV project. It's gone. Website's gone. Took it offline. By the end of this month, I'm going to take off TaiwanLive.tv. I'm done with the website. The project's over. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with the channel. Yeah, it does. It does make it interesting, but what I'm saying, J-Boy, and I appreciate your comment, is that it doesn't kind of match up with the project anymore. You know what I mean? So I think I need to go back to my old, personal channel and just be like, just like MJ Talks, or MJ Speaks, or Sputters Forth, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate that YouTube doesn't have a provision for moving videos from one channel to another, because I could certainly mark like all the late night ones and move them over to the old channel, but maybe I never should have done late night from Taiwan Live TV. But the only reason that I did do late night from Taiwan Live TV is because in the very beginning it got like a lot more followers. But that was Periscope, and so I just did the same thing on YouTube that I did on Periscope. because I got like 96 subscribers on MJ Klein, but I got, 238 or something on Timeline TV. Not a tremendous amount, but I never did specific things to try to build my channel and all that stuff, because it wasn't my goal. My goal was to be interesting, or to talk about things, and I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of different things and have my fingers in a lot of different kind of technology and even different kinds of jobs and so forth. So I get a chance to share that and talk about that. That's cool. I can see lots more studio stuff coming up, though. Lots more studio stuff coming up, especially when we start building the new studio. So I got to work on a schedule with Li Xiang and buy the materials. But the whole build out, it's going to be tough. I got to take everything out, but the whole build out should be like probably about 5 days. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it. You take care. Yeah, I did. I did see his live streams. Rob, I'll send you that stuff, okay? And I'll just post it in the late night group in case, it's not anything secret, in case other people would be interested in it. But that Sangean radio is very affordable, and you'll like it. And one thing I like about the Sangean radio before you go is that if you put rechargeable batteries in it, when you plug it in on the power supply, it will recharge the batteries inside the radio, so you don't need to take them out for a separate recharger. There's a switch inside the battery compartment that you can switch for rechargeables. And man, oh man, when I saw that was like, again, Taiwanese innovation. So it's real easy for me to keep it charged. And there's also a travel lock, kind of like your electric razor. You don't want to open up your suitcase and find the thing's been running for 4 hours or whatever. So yeah, comes with a case, and it comes with the antenna. So I think you'll like it. But just for fun, I should go back and reload those videos that I took, because I was in Chiang Rai in Thailand, and I really should reload those videos and replay them, because it was some experts talking about the early days of the pandemic. So yeah. Well, I must admit, I haven't listened very much. I turned my radio on the other day and the batteries were dead. I was like, oh man. So I plugged it in and recharged them. And I did have an antenna on my roof. One of the mounting ropes that I tied it up with has deteriorated, so I just need to redo that, rewrap that. But no reason we couldn't have a shortwave club, and talk about what we hear. That's really cool. And some guys invest in the recording, because the Sangean radio has jacks specifically designed for recording with a special kind of recorder, where when the radio comes on, it turns the recorder on, kind of thing. There's a sync going on between the machine and the radio, and a lot of guys really who are into it, they're always trying to find pirate stations and stuff, because there's a lot of stuff going on. Sometimes there are people who are broadcasting on shortwave radio, like, behind the backs of their governments, and they're giving people information and insights on things. Like, I really haven't done it, but I'm positive there's some information that you could be hearing on now about the Russian-Ukraine war that wouldn't be readily available on YouTube or any of the other social media platforms or television or radio. They're going to get some people on the ground talking about it, The other thing, too, is I've always found throughout the years that the BBC is a very reliable source of information. But I used to have a regular group, just like TV, with channels, right? I'll watch Channel News Asia, and I'll watch a couple others, but I got a group, and it's a diversified group because each one has their own slant. If all you did was listen to CNN, your brain would explode. Same way with shortwave. And I used to listen to BBC, Radio Deutsche Welle. I listened to Prague, Czechoslovakia, which is gone now. That's the Czech Republic. And I used to listen to the Voice of Free China, which is Taiwan, which is now Radio Taiwan International. And I used to listen to Radio Moscow. And between all those five, you would take whatever the information is and you mix it up and you would get the truth out of extrapolation. Because I remember years ago, a friend of mine came over and he said, I want to listen to some of these programs. I said, okay, let's listen to Radio Moscow. And they had Mailbag. And they had a guy on with a fairly competent American accent. And he says, so-and-so from the United States asks, is there religious freedom in Russia? And the host goes, oh, there's complete and total religious freedom in Russia. There's no restrictions whatsoever on worship. You can go to any church you want to, and on and on and on. And our mouths dropped open because we know for a fact that was a lie. And I had a friend of mine who had just escaped from the Soviet Union. He came from Odessa, Ukraine, and the reason he escaped was because he's a Jew. And they're persecuted. They won't let them have a synagogue. They won't let them worship. So, yeah. So you hear these things, and you can put two and two together. It's pretty interesting. The number stations were just bizarre. I'm trying to think. I've heard, tuning through the bands, I've heard some spooky, weird stuff. People with foreign accents, some of them with foreign accents trying to speak English and saying bizarre word groups, and these are just codes for something. So some operative somewhere has got his little earbud in and his antenna up and he's listening. I do miss not being able to operate ham radio here in Taiwan. I have the extra class license, which is the top class license in the United States for ham radio. And I wrote to the Ministry of Communications here about a reciprocal license, and they kind of gave me sort of a flippant answer that the regulations don't permit it and all this. And I said, yeah, I'm suggesting that you modify the regulations because people like me, I also hold the GROL, professional broadcast engineer. People like me could really raise the awareness of Taiwan by being on the air. And I told him another thing. I said, Taiwan is always looking for ways to prove that they're a sovereign nation, and just, giving reciprocal licensing to ham radio operators would be a very good way to do that. And let me explain how that works. If you're from Thailand and you can't even speak English, you can put a ham radio, like a walkie-talkie or whatever, we call them handy-talkies, in your suitcase, and as long as you got your Thai radio license, when you get to America and customs looks at what you got, they go, what's this radio? It's a ham radio, and you show them your license. Reciprocal, man. Can bring it right in. Guy can get off the plane, crack open his HT, handy-talkie, and start talking immediately. No paperwork, no nothing. It's a little different, but if I visit Thailand, I have to file a piece of paperwork. It's not a big deal. But I could go to one of those remote villages and, throw up a wire antenna or make it some kind of antenna, which I used to love. I used to love making homemade antennas. And I can go on the air from Thailand. But I can't go on the air from Taiwan. and I have permanent residency and own a company and own a home. And there's something wrong about that. But they're always changing, and you have to keep looking about every 3 or 4 months, because they made significant progress in the last few years. For example, I can get a guest operator's license. Winter time is ham radio contesting time, and a lot of ham radio contests around the world go on during the winter, because that's usually when propagation is better in North America. But no, it's not a blanket ban. No, they have ham radio operators here, but the licensing, the regulations here, stuff. Well, they told me if I want to take the test in Chinese, I'm eligible to get a license. But the problem is, the terms are all messed up. Like, we say electrical voltage. Well, they'll say electrical water level and stuff like that, and it's like, it just gives me a headache. But I met some Taiwanese ham radio operators because I was invited to the Taichung Ham Radio Club, and they gave me a hat too. I think you guys see me wore that. They have a license class in Taiwan for 100 words a minute, Morse code. 100. The fastest I've ever been able to go, copying, not sending, is 55 words a minute. 100 words a minute is equivalent exactly to typing. I mean, that's bizarre. But I met all these guys, and they were really amazing. They were ex-military, and they learned, Morse code in the military. But since I haven't used it for a long time, my Morse code speed now is somewhere like around 17 to 20 words a minute. It's pitiful. And so I have an app on my phone, for Morse code to try to test me. I used to have a thing called a Morse machine. I actually lost it in the move to Taiwan from the States. I should have brought it with me. But the Morse machine is a very interesting thing. It does, it sends Morse code to you in random groups or actual words. But it also simulates QSOs, which QSO is a Q code for a conversation. It'll send out a CQ and give a call sign. And if you use your paddle to send Morse code, you can call that call sign, and they'll call you back, and you can have a conversation, about the weather and where you're located and all that stuff and how much power you're running. Pretty interesting. It's called the Morse machine. Gosh, I forget who makes it, and they don't make it anymore. They're vintage. If you can find one, they're worth some money. And I had one, ADA, I think, ADA Morse machine. I had a brand new one. It was phenomenal. That's one of the things that I wish I still had. So, anyway, sometimes at night I'll fall asleep listening to Morse code. But back in the days when I was injured and I couldn't work, and I spent a lot of my time on the floor of my house, I had the ADA Morse machine. I had it set at 50 words a minute, and I was copying about 98% in my head. So that's pretty cool. I really like that. That's a skill that I always had. I had a little bit of pride, I must admit, in being able to copy Morse code. But right now, if I heard some Morse code on the radio, I would have to write it down on a piece of paper, because I couldn't follow it in my head, because I haven't been practicing for a long time. But being a musician really helps. Yeah, I've had some really good opportunities. I met some Russian guys on the air, and they looked up my information in the call book. All ham radio operators, have an address and a QTH we call, which is their location, and it's public knowledge and it's printed. And countries around the world gather this, and so various ham radio operator listings, exist. And one's called the call book, right? No, you're right. And sending would help a lot. Sending being able to send would help a great deal. I mean, there's nothing stopping me from buying an iambic paddle and a code key generator, which they do make in a one package, and practicing sending it. But I have an interesting story about how I switched from sending Morse code from right hand to my left hand. That's an interesting story. I may have said that already, but so a couple of Russian guys wrote to me. They were asking me for ICs. Like my television broke, I got an IC, I can't find it, and we had them in the States. And one guy wrote to me, and he said to me, "Could you send me a Bible? Because they're banned." Of course, I couldn't send him one because it would have been seized in the mail, and I didn't want him to get into trouble, so I didn't do it. But yeah. But one Russian guy, he sent me a sampler of tea, and it was amazing. Some of the most amazing tea I've ever had. I remember 4 different kinds, and I hoarded that stuff, man. I drank like 1 cup, like a month. I stretched those 4 little bags out, like a vacuum pack bag. I stretched those things out for like a couple of years. It's amazing. One time, my friend John, and you guys have seen John G on some of my live streams. John is in the movie business, and I've known him since 1988. And he's been to Russia several times. He actually met a woman and brought her back to the States from Russia and married her. He's done movies in the Soviet Union back at that time. But John was friendly with and knew some Russian ham operators and invited them to the States, and they got a sponsor, and they came to the States, and I met them, and we went to WILD, which was, at that time a 5,000 watt daytimer station in Boston. And we just went there and showed them that, it's only 5,000 watt transmitter, no big deal. Showed them the antenna. But we also showed them the 160 meter network that we used to run that station at night on 160 meters, because it was a daytime only station, so they shut down at sundown, right? And John and another ham, N1EVH Mike from Lynn, Massachusetts, whom I still am in contact with, ran a 2-wire beverage antenna, which is a ground effect antenna. It's a 2-wire balanced antenna, so it tries to reject common mode signals. And you don't have it so much elevated from the top of the, up high. It's a ground effect antenna, so it wants to stay kind of low to the ground, like maybe head height. And then Steve, NQ1F, made this incredible bandpass filter that would only allow the 160 meter band to come in, because there were 3 broadcast stations in the area besides WILD. And those broadcast stations, we were on the 160 meter band, which is 1.8 to 2.0 megahertz. And if you know, like, AM is like 0.53 to, 1750 now or something like that. Anyway, long story short, we brought these guys there to show them the station, but also to show them the 160 stuff. And what I think is one of the coolest and geekiest things, and you guys will understand what I mean, I learned some Russian Morse code, and a lot of Russian is abbreviated. So like you have a word like "do svidaniya," which is a pretty long word to spell. They just abbreviated DSW, but other words like "poka," which means "I'll see you later," you can just say POKA, right? Poka. So these Russian hams, they were younger than me, and they're really sharp. These guys were engineers, really sharp, and gave me a lot of confidence in the next generation. And we got in the car. They rode with John, and I was leaving, and I went on my horn, my Volkswagen horn. I went da 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 DSW, and I looked over, and they all busted out laughing in the car because I just basically was saying "Do svidaniya," and which is goodbye. Because it would have been harder to go, da 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 dit da 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 on the horn, which would have been poka. But now here's an interesting thing. I got my ham radio license, my novice, in February of 1988. And by December of 1988, I'd gone all the way to extra class, which is kind of unusual. But it's funny because my dad did the same thing in one respect. My dad said he got the novice license, and the next day he went back and got the technician license. And that's exactly what I did. It was amazing. I got my novice license, and I had my novice license in my pocket. And the next day, I took the test for the technician and passed it. So, I went up really quick, but that was the era of perestroika. So by 1989, in January, I got my extra class license, and the FCC had issued me my call sign, November Victor 1 Lima. Now, if you go to like sites like QSL.com and you look up NV1L, you'll see, my information. It's readily available as my real name and my address and so, my location and stuff on it, right? So, I was around when the Soviet Union fell, and perestroika and glasnost, and then I met a guy from Odessa, and he introduced me to Valery Chernish, who came to the States, with the Peace Child program, and also amazing things happening. And Russia was opening up, and Gorbachev was really interested in having good relations, with Western countries and so forth. And suddenly what happened was, back in the old days, and I don't know this for sure because I came into it when things were opening up, but my friend NJ1P, Joe, told me that you contact a Russian operator and he'd say, "Hi, my name is, whatever his name would be. And I live in this city. And, today my weather is like this," and describe it, cloudy, temperature. "And my antenna is such and such design, so many meters high, and I'm running a couple hundred watts." And that would be it. That's all they talked about, because they didn't want any scrutiny from the government. So remember, Joe told me, he says, "Hey, man," he called me up, he says, "I just had like this coolest conversation with a Russian ham." I'm like, "Yeah," because it's usually boring. He says, "Yeah," he said, "You're from Boston, right?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Yeah, so what about that Bobby Orr?" And he said he almost dropped the key off the table when the guy asked him about Bobby Orr. It's the first time he ever saw a Russian ham radio operator deviate from the standard. It's always like, power, antenna, weather, and location, right? So one night, we switched beers. I'm on my last one. Is that Burge or Berg? I don't know. Meester? Oh, 12% alcohol. Holy cow. So one night, I was having a chat with this guy, and I don't like voice. I've always liked Morse code. I don't know why. I just preferred Morse code. It was just cool. And I was having a chat with a guy from Soviet Union somewhere, and I don't remember where he was from. I don't remember his name. But I remember the guy's really cool and he's really friendly. And a lot of those guys are ex-military, and when they send Morse code, it's very musical. We say that a person has a good fist when they send Morse code. They call it a fist because you hold your hand kind of like a fist, right? And this guy was nice. And so I asked him, I said, can you teach me some Russian Morse code? And he used some pretty interesting symbols to differentiate when he was going, like he said, okay, he would say in English, I'm going to say this, and he would say it in English, and then he would use a demarker, and then he would tell me, show me in Russian. Now Russian language has 4 letters that we don't have in the English language. And so I already knew that, which is very good. But like, for example, everybody knows my name is Michael, but I would just say Mike, M-I-K-E, because it's easier. And also Mike is an international phonetic. If you're going, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, right? Well, one of those is Mike. So if you just go Mike, everybody knows what you're saying. So in English, that's Mike, M-I-K-E, which is da-da, did it, da-da-da, dit. But Mike in Russian is Misha, which is the same as see, there's Mike and Michael, there's Misha and Mikhail. So Misha is the short version, right? So the guy said, I'm going to teach you how to say your name. So it's M-I, and then there's one letter for S-H, A. So where English it would be M-I-S-H-A, and Russia it's M-I-S-H-A. So it's da-da, 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 da-da. And it was like, oh, I'm sorry. Da-da, did it, da-da, da-da, did. That's it. That's a unique Morse code letter. Da-da, M, did it, da-da, da-da, da-da. Gosh, I forgot it. Anyway, and then he taught me how to say stuff like, he taught me how to say, Меня зовут Misha, which is how you say that they call me. It's like saying my name is, but it's more friendly, more familiar. They call me Misha. And then Vasha. He told me how to say this. This one guy elevated my Russian CW, 100% in a half an hour. He was so happy to do it. It was really great. It was amazing. Because ham radio operators don't have these political problems. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. So I'm going to tell you a story about a contact I had in Iraq. But let me finish this story. So this guy taught me all this stuff. And he taught me how to say many different phrases in Russian that were normal, everyday kinds of exchanges in ham radio in English. So much so that one time I was on the air with a Russian guy, and I was like, Меня зовут Misha, Vashagrad, blah, 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 and stuff like that. And he asked me, how long have you been in the States? And I said, Izviniche, ya Amerikanya. I said, oh, excuse me, I'm an American. Freaked him out. But the day before Desert Shield became Desert Storm, I was, for some reason, I don't know why, on the voice bands, and I heard a station in Iraq. And the guy was very polite and very patient. And there must have been 1,000 guys trying to work him, because Iraq is a very rare country. And we try to collect the little cards, the QSO cards, that ham radio operators send, that as proof of contact, right? So I swung my big beam antenna around, and I threw my call in, and he called me back, NV1L, blah, blah, blah. And I said, may I please have a CW contact? And all these ham radio operators understand that when you work these countries, you work them on phone, single sideband, or you work them on on CW or RTTY or whatever, but the modes count. And I don't care about single sideband. I wanted like all the countries of the world on CW. And the guy said, sure. And right there on that band, he switched to CW and gave me a contact. It was beautiful. And the next day became Desert Storm Day, and immediately all postal service to Iraq was illegal. Never got the card. But the guy was cool, and he didn't care about politics. And that's what ham radio is all about. And that's what shortwave radio is about too. All right, you guys, it's getting late. I gotta go. Thanks so much. This was an interesting conversation, and I wasn't prepared to go on tonight, but I'm really glad I did. You guys take care. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. It's on Live TV. Good night.